two big ones that are coming online in the future, and they are moving. I can promise you, we are moving fast with these.
We interrupt your regularly scheduled programming to bring you this very important announcement. Happy birthday! Andy Williams is finally 40 years old. Happy birthday, Andy!
Welcome back to Roswell Brew Talks. I am Andy Williams, Executive Director of Visit Roswell, and fun little get-together we have today. Two of our very own staff members here at Visit Roswell. We have our Director of Sales and Film Liaison, Ted Basco, and our Marketing and Visitor Services Manager, Danielle Purdy. So glad to have you two on and glad to get you guys some face time in front of the community because you guys do a ton of legwork behind the scenes that people may actually not know too much about. So welcome.
Thank you very much, Andy.
Yep. You got it. And today we're going to talk about really a hodgepodge of different things. But the focus point is really going to be, I don't necessarily like to call it staycations because I feel like that's played out and we've been talking about that forever. And people kind of throw that term out. But we are going to talk about spending money locally, especially from the resident standpoint of being a visitor in your own hometown and the things that we in Roswell have to offer that perhaps people don't even know exist. I'm taken aback often when I meet people who say, for example, that they've lived here since the 1980s and they've never stepped foot on the property of the Chattahoochee Nature Center. That just blows my mind. So we're going to talk about some of those things. We're going to talk about the Computer Museum of America. We're going to talk about some recent hotel renovations. And then we're going to get into the nuts and bolts of what the two of you do on a daily basis as well. So does that sound like a plan?
Absolutely.
That sounds great.
All right. Well, Danielle, we're going to start with you too, because more often than not, you are really kind of behind the scenes. You're not as front facing because you are the marketing manager and you are scheduling the street team with the mobile visitor center. And you're often behind the scenes doing your job and doing a number of different things, but just not out in the public as much as say I am, Ted is, other members of the organization or the board are, for example. So Danielle, from a marketing perspective, tell everybody what it is that you're doing on a day-to-day basis. And I know you're doing a number of different things, but really what's that key focal point for you in that area?
Yeah, so my role is kind of split in a few different areas. So I work a lot with our advertising. We want to focus on our target markets that come in from our drive markets. That's that 4-hour drive that we're really looking at. So it's looking at Chattanooga, Asheville, Birmingham, Savannah. We're looking at all different markets around there that we're wanting to drive people into Roswell and let them know what we have to offer here. I also work on the journalist side to bring journalists in to tell them a little bit more about Roswell's story, tell them new things that they might not know going on. If they're familiar with Roswell or not, then we can kind of introduce them to what the city has to offer. And then on the street team side, the visitor services side, I manage a team of 7 people who go out in our street team, our mobile visitor center van that goes out on a weekly basis to parks and events, stores all over Roswell. We want to make sure that we hit all different areas around Roswell so that we can engage with the visitor where they are, because not everybody is coming into our traditional visitor center. And so we want to bring that option out to other people when they're in market, when they're in Roswell.
Yeah,
so that's
exactly.
kind of the focus on that side.
Yeah, I love it. And you hit on a couple of different key points. Really that drive market, that 3 to 4 hour drive range. And we say this to residents all the time. You know, just because you're not seeing Visit Roswell's advertisements doesn't mean we're not aggressively advertising. Because at the end of the day, the resident that lives here is not our audience. CVBs, Convention and Visitors Bureaus, often referred to as destination marketing organizations, were formed to attract the visitor from beyond their city limits. We like to think as a tourist as traveling from beyond 50 miles. And so we advertise in publications that hit those audiences that are in those markets. And you nailed it. You know, Chattanooga, Birmingham, Columbia, South Carolina, Greenville, you know, these types of places where we've got a better opportunity to get them to engage with us and drive in. You know, we know we're not going to get people that are flying into Atlanta just to come to Roswell. We can definitely get people to drive into Roswell, drive markets and day trippers for sure. And then obviously we can be a great hub and spoke opportunity, say for somebody that's coming in town for a convention at the World Congress Center. You know, they can shoot up for the day and have a half day here. Perhaps they come back because they've fallen in love with Roswell on a recent visit. But at the end of the day, CVBs are in existence to promote traveler marketing, protected by law. We charge 8% lodging tax here in Roswell. So if you consider a hotel that charges $1 for a room night, well, there's an 8-penny assessment on that. 43.75 of that goes to fund Visit Roswell. 100% funded by the lodging tax, not property tax, not a business excise tax, anything like that, just the lodging tax. 37.5% of that goes to the city of Roswell and is unrestricted, so they can do whatever lawfully they want, general fund portion. And then the additional remaining 18.75% is restricted and has to be used for what is called TPD, tourism product development. That's a mouthful and a lot to kind of comprehend, but at the end of the day, that's why it's so important that we go after that traveler, because we want to fill those hotel rooms. And at the end of the day, we want the people that are staying in the hotels to frequent the restaurants, visit the attractions, hit Canton Street, float the river, whatever it is that that appeals to them. And a big part of that too is our boots on the ground portion, which is Ted and the sales department. And your job is to actually go out and be aggressive to generate opportunities for the Bureau. So Danielle's obviously focusing on the storytelling piece, getting people to respond to advertisements, to editorial, whether it's a blog feature, an influencer. Ted is actually going out and generating what we call a lead. What does that process look like, and what is that exactly for those that maybe not are understanding what a sales department within a bureau is?
Right. Thank you, Andy. The word lead can be defined in so many different ways, but for us specifically, for the sales department here within our organization, it's all about relationships. Really, it's the relationships that we build with our hoteliers, with our event venues, with our restaurants and our breweries, even all of our small businesses. It's really understanding their need behind the need when it comes to the local community and their needs for travel and hotel accommodations. So say, for example, the wedding industry. We have almost 24 wedding venues that we promote just in the city of Roswell. And you multiply that by the amount of weekends that we do have, that's a lot of weddings on an annual basis, right? So, for us as a consultative service to help our venues help their customers, why not have a seamless process from a lead perspective and help their customers with the lead generation, with identifying which hotels work best for them, and which hotels work best for their travelers. Because, one wedding is always going to be different from another. It's not consistent like a corporate type of business.
Right.
It's very different, very unique, very personalized and customized. And that's the type of service that we, from a sales standpoint, provide.
And complimentary. And I think that's a key focal point. There is no charge for what we do. We service leads. We work with, Ted works obviously with, whether it's a bride or a meeting planner, bridging them and putting them together with the appropriate venue, whether that's a hotel, a meeting space, whether it's a restaurant for a buyout, a number of different things, all complimentary. Because at the end of the day, we just want the business in Roswell, and we want to keep the business in Roswell.
Right.
We do a lot of wedding business, but one of the things you hit on too that I want to talk about is what it looks like to aggressively go out and canvas that corporate market. You work leads, and you pick up the phone call and you're receptive to those leads, those inbound leads, but you also go out and generate leads. I know that you canvass different corporate headquarters, you set up meetings, you do a lot of different coffee meetings and lunches and things like that to convince those meeting planners and those corporate representatives to keep their business here, to establish hotel contacts and corporate accounts and things like that. What is your strategy and who you target, how you go after them, and what that messaging looks like to get them here?
It's an organic strategy, to say the least, because we all know where our office buildings are. Take, for example, that Mansell Overlook. That's on the corner of Mansell and the West Side Parkway sector. There's not just one building. There are multiple buildings within that sector and that corridor that houses so many different corporations. And the only way to get to know them truly is to go on to their office and knock on the door and just have a conversation and educate them of who we are as a CVB and what the CVB does and how we could be of service to them. So essentially, we're kind of like a sales team within their organization, but we're not on their payroll.
Yeah,
right.
That's exactly right.
So, yeah. And in addition to that, we have our partners with Roswell Inc. and, with their strategies of business and economic development, there are boots on the ground when there's a new business coming into town.
Right.
So that being said, that's that immediate connection to the new stakeholder that wants to be more involved with
Yeah,
Roswell. So
and I'll hit that too, because tourism should absolutely work hand in hand with economic development.
Yeah.
Far too often you do hear of bureaus who don't have a great relationship with their economic development partners. We do. I mean, we share an office with them, and you're exactly right. That team can come to us and say, hey, here's a heads up. We've got this corporate headquarters relocating here, or this small business is growing exponentially, and we're having to find them new space. Might be a big opportunity for you guys to get in front of them. And so, we go and meet and make those presentations, and we appreciate that relationship because it's a strong one. And, just for record here, for the first time in history, 2 really big feats, I would say, that were accomplished this year out of this office. Ted booked over $1 million in direct revenue to the hotels and booked over 10,000 room nights, which we have never done before.
definitely a team effort.
It is,
Yeah.
absolutely, and you do a great job. And I want to shift back and give some focus and accolades to Danielle here and talk about our marketing strategy because, one of the things I think this organization does well is we really use real people in our marketing strategy. And we don't go down the route of putting models in our photography and staging things. Now, we've done that in the past, and it served its purpose. But what we found is that UGC, user-generated content, having people actually out in their element doing things. The worst thing in the world is to see an ad of somebody doing something and learning you actually can't do that thing in that destination because it's a staged photo. And so one of the things we do is we have a great photographer who goes out to multiple locations on a monthly basis, and he gets people in their element. He walks around with a photo release form and gets signatures that basically says, hey, you could appear in an ad, and we get them to sign off on it. A lot of these photos are of special events that take place, which we have a very strong special events calendar. But when you see our ads, you see things that you, as a visitor to Roswell, would actually be able to do. Talk about what that looks like, and then let's talk about UGC from an Instagram standpoint and social media and why that's so important.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, like you mentioned, we do work with a photographer. He goes out on a monthly basis. We work together, figure out what photos we're missing and what photos would be needed for the upcoming season. So he's out at Alive in Roswell a good bit. He goes to the concert series that happen during the summer. He goes to festivals, all the different parks, and, just get people experiencing Roswell, walking on a trail, going for a walk with their dog, eating at one of our local restaurants. He wants to get all of that. He wants to get that image so that people know what to experience, what they can expect to experience in Roswell. Mm-hmm. And I think that comes across in a really authentic way for us and for the person that's looking to make a visit here. And so we also make use of that photography on our website, in our advertising, on our social media. And we want to use, yes, our photographer, but we also want to use other people's photography too. Like when they are here in market and they're taking photos of their trip, we look around for what they're experiencing, mm-hmm. and if they're sharing their experience in Roswell, and they're tagging, Roswell GA or Visit Roswell, we can find those and ask to share that photo, and so then we're getting another person's perspective, what their viewpoint is while they're going around Roswell, mm-hmm. which I think is a really great way to show off the city. Something else that we also do, we work with a couple of different influencers to get reels for us on a regular basis as well, and they do videos for us walking through one of our shops, going to get tacos, going to Alive in Roswell, so that you get a real in the moment walking down the street feel for what you can experience here.
Yeah. Well, and it's no small feat as well, and you've done a great job with that. I think between Instagram and Facebook, Instagram, we're up to about 11,000 followers. Facebook has about 21,000. So not only are we producing content there, but we are retrieving content, and on a daily basis, we have to go in to see what's been published. We have to manage comments. It's a no small job, especially when you get into the social media world. On top of everything else we're doing, mm-hmm. We're looking at adding MySpace. That I don't know. We're learning about that platform to see what happens. Yeah. We'll see where the road leads us on that one.
Keep Martha Jean in line,
That's right. Yes, and actually, if any of our listeners would like to check out our Threads account. Visit Roswell GA. We do a little bit of something unconventional. We have a 79-year-old intern who manages that account, and it is hilarious to see what her take is on the destination. And it's a total change of pace between our social media, our Facebook page, and our Instagram. So definitely check that one out. Switching gears a little bit, I want to talk about the actual hotel product. We're going to talk about what currently exists, and we're going to talk about actually what's coming down the pike as well. It's going to be a big boost for our local economy. We have primarily limited service hotels. We're very well aware that we have one full service hotel that actually has meeting space that's able to accommodate food and beverage requests, full service catering, audio visual components, and things like that. And that's our DoubleTree. And a lot of people are familiar with the DoubleTree, but they're not familiar with the fact that they just went through a massive, not only a common area and meeting space renovation a couple years ago, but now a guest room renovation. And I'll tell you, if you haven't been in a while, it's like walking into a completely different upper upscale hotel, isn't it, Ted?
Yes, absolutely. If you haven't been, I'm telling you, I'm looking you straight in the camera. If you have not been to the DoubleTree recently, you're missing out. And the reason why is because it's complete night and day. It's under new management. The ownership is fantastic, and they've really invested in making this into a brand new, renovated Roswell-like product with all the bells and whistles and the modern amenities, but at the same time with that traditional historic Roswell feel to it. I mean, not once have I seen a hotel in the community that has a name for each of their floors, and they're all dedicated to the history of Roswell. So let's say, for instance, one floor is named the Old Mill Machine Shop floor. Another floor is the textile floor. So it's really cool, really unique, and the DoubleTree is doing a fantastic job in terms of capturing a lot of great weekday business, that midweek business travel. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, two of the newer hotels, we've got the Home 2 Suites, the Spring Hill Suites that are off West Side Parkway. For the Home 2 Suites, if you're a Hilton follower, you got them. You've got the DoubleTree. If you're brand loyal to the Marriott, we've got a great Spring Hill Suites over there. We also have a fantastic Holiday Inn, Best Western, Holiday Inn Express. Some of these are closer to the Alpharetta side, so you wouldn't necessarily know that they're even in Roswell, but they are. And we certainly support them because they drive business into the community. They help fund this organization. But two big ones that are coming online in the future, and they are moving. I can promise you, we are moving fast with these. And we're getting close, guys. The Kimpton, which is a part of that West Alley development, which is kind of tucked behind that Gate City area. And then the JDV, Joy d'Ivoire, which is a Hyatt brand. First Hyatt hotel we will have in Roswell. Both of these boutique hotels are upper upscale. They're lifestyle hotels. They're going to have high-end amenities. Very different ball game, okay? So much higher nightly rate because you are getting a pretty top-notch product. And I want to talk about those. Both have 125 guest rooms. The JDV is right here. It's going to be adjacent to the Southern Post development. The Kimpton, like I mentioned, is going to be back there at the West Alley development. Really going to do a great job of tying in downtown and creating that east to west movement when really kind of Canton Street's focused on that north to south movement. So these are going to be two big wins for the community. It's also going to allow us to go after clientele we've never been able to actually attract, particularly when you think about the 6,000, 7,000 square feet of meeting space the Kimpton's going to have. We're not talking about bringing in 500, 600, 700 people, but we're now going to be able to go after, membership kickoffs, sales retreats, C-suite retreats, and things of that nature, kind of 80, 90, 100, 110, 120 attendee type groups. Ted, how is that important for the economy? And, when you look at those two upper upscale hotels that are coming into market, what's the difference maker in those compared to what we've had?
Yeah, so when you see the Kimpton and the Hyatt JVD come into play, those are two brands that you don't typically see in a tertiary market like ours. You'll usually see those in metropolitan cities, but to have it in Roswell, especially in downtown Roswell, where our current stakeholders that have established their business here over the years have that certain level of conglomeracy, should I say?
Big word, wow.
They're definitely looking for this type of product, this type of hotel product. Take nothing away from what we currently have because they are excellent hotels. But when you bring in a new element, that just elevates the city in general.
Yeah.
That elevates the hotel product and the hotel community. So, there's friendly competition happening internally. And there's also friendly competition when it comes to our surrounding neighbors too, as well, up to our north, as well as to our south and in the metro area. So, with Kimpton being a hotel company with a food focus too as well,
Right.
that's going to bring in a whole different dynamic to the Canton Street area.
That's right.
So,
Well, and on that note too, the JDV is actually going to be managed by Indigo Road Hospitality Group, who manages great restaurants. They're actually entering into the hotel market, the sector. But if you're familiar with Oku, with Oak, with Coletta, I mean, these are high-end restaurants, very well run. And to see them managing a hotel, which is also going to have 2 restaurants, it's going to be fantastic. The Kimpton itself is going to have 2 restaurants. So we're talking about really an increase in product mix, which is going to be fantastic. And on that note, let's talk about the impact of those 2 boutique hotels. We're forecasting about $11 million in direct revenue coming into the community just based off those 2 hotels. That's going to generate a little bit over $900,000 on an annual basis of lodging tax. So this is new funds that are coming in, and can't wait to get those, shovels in the dirt and get those going. Danielle, we're going to wrap up with you because you do work with these a bit and work really to get the word out, whether it's through our own traditional advertising, through working with editorial, or sending influencers. But I want to talk about the actual attractions. We've got the Chattahoochee River, 9 miles of it, if you float it from east all the way to west. And then you've got the Chattahoochee Nature Center, 127 acres. You've got the Computer Museum of America, one of the largest collections of computer artifacts on the East Coast. And then when you factor in things like A5 Sportsplex, which brings in a ton of volleyball tournaments and a lot of different participants, on a weekend type basis, we're talking about a lot of visitation to the community. What's the impact and what's the relevance of having product like that in a community?
Well, I think Roswell has a really unique variety of attractions to bring people in. Everybody is introduced to Roswell in different ways, whether they come for the river for the first time and, go to Azalea Park or through the Nancy Hale Outdoor Center to float on the river. Canton Street is also a really big driver for us because people know that name and people kind of know to come in for like a downtown street. And so those are really big drivers for us, but also kind of having the name of Computer Museum of America. People are expecting, this big museum in which they do walk into. You don't just walk into a room with computers lining the walls. Like there is so much more technology that is surrounding you when you walk in, and they have such a great way to storytell through how technology touches every part of our lives.
Right.
And you have the Chattahoochee Nature Center that started here back in the 70s, and it's been here forever. And it's a really interesting place that continues to grow, and they continue to build up their product through events and through bringing in the Screaming Eagle aerial adventure. And so every attraction that we have here is always looking for ways to build up their own space and bring in new ways for people to experience their attraction. And so we have this really great product that it's whether you're looking for something, and this is kind of through our advertising as well, whether you're looking for something fast-paced, slow-paced, we have history, we have adventure, we have music, we have art, we have a lot of different ways that people can experience the city of Roswell. And that kind of goes back to our tagline: no matter how you're looking to experience it, you can come to Roswell and find what you're looking for. Yeah, at your natural pace. That's what you're looking for.
Yeah, and thank you for hitting on history too, because we've got Barrington Hall, Bullock Hall, you got Smith Plantation, you got newly added Holly Hill now, which is all going to be part of that kind of Founders Hall branded area, Founders Park area.
Also,
and so,
the Roswell History Museum above
right.
the Culture Arts Center is a fantastic space that just finished building last year.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yep. And they have rotating exhibits and things of that nature, open during the week. Cultural Arts Center has a ton of programming going on, a lot of performances. Typically, especially for our younger families, a lot of puppet series, children's programming, things of that nature. But they do a fantastic job over there as well. And so a lot to see and do. And so, again, it goes back to my comment. A lot of residents don't know these things exist. And so we want to help too, even though that we're charged with promoting tourism and really going after that traveler from beyond 50 miles. Hey, just because you're a resident and you live right here doesn't mean there's not plenty to do. And you can surely support your local, your assets, your local economy, your local businesses. I mean, we haven't even talked about the importance of the restaurant scene, but I mean, you know, we're talking $225 million in receipts every year. One of the strongest dining and culinary areas within the metropolitan area, I would say. People just come from miles and miles away because of our dining scene, and we certainly appreciate everything that those small businesses do as well. So we will wrap it up with this. I want to thank you guys for everything you do for this organization. Y'all are fantastic. And gosh, Ted, you've been here for what, 5 years now? Danielle, little six or so?
Yeah, just hit 6 earlier this month.
Yeah, there we go. So great tenure, and appreciate everything you guys do. And for more information on what our organization does, and to find out if you're a resident and you want to check out what it looks like through a visitor's lens, visit RoswellGA.com. Check us out on social media. Visit Roswell, Georgia on Facebook, Instagram and Thread. Visit Roswell GA. And I'll leave it with what Steve always says. It's a great day to do business in Roswell. Cheers.
Cheers.